cincin datang, loloskan gelombang pasatan bulanan. Mendaki jalan pandai singkir, menurun jalan kebiaran, bina hati indah lambe, awak kaki cuan, oi oi ayam dan labe. Layang-layang, selayang pandang, hati di dalam, bagai bergoncang. Jangan ragu dan jangan bimbang, ini lagu selayang pandang. Gandang garam tu, hayat dengan kang kalu, sambil tuntangkan tahu, biar mundur dan maju. Ayo mandari manasai, mandari manasai, mandari manasai. Belenggang patah-patah, nganape goyang pica-pica, nganape bodi bocor-bocor. Tenggang-tenggang lopi na anak koda ipanjaja buluana. Pinang muda dibelah dua, gunung kerinci, gunung yang tinggi berjulang. Wahai anak muda, kalau berjalan harus berdua, senanglah hati walau tiada orang yang larang. Jantung hati sayang, jantung hati tuan ada di kampung baru. Caca marica hei hei, caca marica hei hei, caca marica ada di kampung baru. Caca marica hei hei, caca marica hei hei, caca marica ada di kampung baru. Ayah mama, jangan mama beta, dia cuma pegang beta. Ayah mama, jangan mama beta, lah orang muda punya biasa, lah orang muda punya biasa, lah orang muda punya biasa. manis putarlah ke kiri, ke kiri, ke kiri, ke kiri dan ke kiri, ke kiri, ke kiri, ke kiri manis. Sekarang kanan mana manis putarlah ke kanan, ke kanan, ke kanan, ke kanan dan ke kanan, ke kanan, ke kanan, ke kanan manis.
Cing datang, loloskan kolom bapak satan ulana.
Mendaki jalan pandai sikit, menurun jalan kabiaro, bina hati ida maule, awan tak kicuan, oi oi ayam dan labe. Layang-layang selayar pandang, jalan bagai bergoncang. Jangan ragu dan jangan bimbang, ini lagu selayak bangga. Gandang garam tuh hayat dengan kang kanu sambil tuntangkan tahu biar mundur dan maju. Ayo menari manasai, menari manasai, menari manasai. Belenggang patah-patah, nganape goyang pica-pica, nganape body bocor-bocor. Tenggang-tenggang lopi na anak koda ipan jajah uluana. Pinang muda dibelah dua, gunung kerinci, gunung yang tinggi menjulang. Wahai anak muda, kalau berjalan harus berdua, senanglah hati walau tiada orang yang larang. Sayang, anak kambing tuan ada di pohon waru. Mana di mana jantung hati sayang, jantung hati tuan ada di kampung baru. Caca marica hei hei, caca marica hei hei, caca marica ada di kampung baru. Caca marica hei hei, caca marica hei hei, caca marica ada di kampung baru. Ayo mama, mama marah beta, dia cuma pegang beta. Ayo mama, mama marah beta, lah orang muda punya biasa, lah orang muda punya biasa, lah orang muda punya biasa. Ke kiri, nona manis putarlah ke kiri, ke kiri, ke kiri, ke kiri dan ke kiri, ke kiri, ke kiri, ke kiri manis. Sekarang kanan, nona manis putarlah ke kanan, ke kanan, ke kanan, ke kanan dan ke kanan, ke kanan, ke kanan, ke kanan manis. Jojo, you mana po misa para sa muna keke, sa muna keke, sa muna keke, sa muna keke. Tayo sampai, tayo sampai.
kelima cingklang cindata loskan kolom bapak satan ulana.
Mendaki jalan pandai sikit, menurun jalan kebiaro, lima hati indah mampe awan tak kicra, oi oi ayam dan labe. Layang-layang, selayar pandang, hati di dalam, bagai bergoncang. Jangan ragu dan jangan bimbang, ini lagu selayar pandang. Gandang garam tu, hayat dengankan kalu, sambil tuntangkan tahu, biar mundur dan maju. Ayo menari manasai, menari manasai, menari manasai.
Belenggang patah-patah, nganape goyang pica-pica, nganape body bocor-bocor.
Tenggang-tenggang lopi na anakoda, anakoda ipan jaja buluana. Bintang muda dibelah dua, gunung kerinci gunung yang tinggi menjulang. Wahai anak muda, kalau berjalan harus berdua, senanglah hati walau tiada orang yang larang. Anak kambing tuan ada di pohon waru. Mana di mana jantung hati saya, jantung hati tuan ada di kampung baru. Cacah marica hei hei, cacah marica hei hei, cacah marica ada di kampung baru. Cacah marica hei hei, cacah marica hei hei, cacah marica ada di kampung baru. Ayo membantu zaman para leta, ia cuma
Pembicara yang lain mau ada di sini. Ibu. Ini Pak ada di sini. Pak. Pak Adit. Kalau kita cuma berdua. Iya. Pimpinan lain nggak ada. Nggak ada. Ya. Silakan. Pak siapa namanya? Ayo, mari, Pak.
Before we proceed, I would like to invite ladies and gentlemen to rise for the national anthem. National Anthem Indonesia Raya. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Honorable leaders of the Committee for Interparliamentary Cooperation of the Indonesian House of Representatives, Dr. Fadlizon, Mr. Gilang Dila Farares, Mr. Putu Supatmarudana, and Mr. Ahmad Hafiz Tohir. Honorable members of the Committee for Interparliamentary Cooperation of the Indonesian House of Representatives. Honorable Director for African Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Republic of Indonesia, Ms. Dewi Justisia Mediwati. His Excellency, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to Ethiopia, Djibouti, and the African Union, Ambassador Al-Bushra Basnur. Honorable Vice President of International Relations, Indonesia Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Bernardino Vega. Honorable Panelist, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Welcome to the virtual seminar on the occasion of the preparation for commemorating the 70th anniversary of the Asia-Africa Conference with this year's theme, Road to Platinum Jubilee. We will discuss an important theme of Africa in today's world, where is Indonesia? First on the agenda, it is with great pleasure and honor that I extend a heartfelt welcome to His Excellency, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to Ethiopia, Djibouti, and the African Union, Ambassador Al-Bushra Basnur. Your Excellency's presence here today is truly appreciated, and we eagerly look forward to hearing your insightful, welcoming remarks. The virtual stage now is yours, Excellency.
Excellency Dr. Fadlizon, Chairman of the Committee for Interparliamentary Cooperation, House of Representatives of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Bernardino Vega, Vice President of International Relations, Indonesian Chamber of Commerce. Esteemed speakers, Dr. Lawali Kola, my good friend, Executive Director of the Coalition on Media and Education for Development Africa Forum, African Union, Ibu Dewi Justicia Mediwati, Director of African Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, Bapak Mintarjo Halim, Chair of African Regional Committee, Indonesian Chamber of Commerce, Bapak Taufan Teguh Akbari, PhD, Vice Rector 3 and Head of Sustainability and Leadership Excellence, LSPR Institute, Communication and Business, and also founder Millennial Berdaya Nusantara Foundation. Dr. Bekele Shibru, Vice President of Harame University. Bapak Irfan Wahyudi, PhD, Director of Center of African Studies, University of Erlangga. Mr. Kemal Abdellah, President of OIS Global Foundation. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. First of all, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude and appreciation to the Committee for Interparliamentary Cooperation of the House of Representatives of the Republic of Indonesia, especially to Excellency and Honorable Dr. Fadlizon for this invaluable collaboration in organizing this event with the Indonesian Embassy in Addis Ababa. I would like also to welcome everyone to the seminar, Africa in Today's World, Where is Indonesia? It is an honor to have you all here today in Addis Ababa, in Jakarta, and many other places in the world via Zoom to discuss such a significant topic of what is going on in Africa and to enhance the awareness and understanding of the Indonesian public regarding contemporary dynamics in Africa. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Africa is incredibly diverse and rich continent with 54 countries, each of them having its own culture, history, and language. There are over 2,000 languages spoken across Africa's vast area of more than 30 million square kilometers. With a population of over 1.4 billion people in 2024, Africa is the second most populous continent after Asia. The climate in Africa varies greatly, from the tropical rainforests of Central Africa to the dry desert of the Sahara and the cool highland of East Africa. In recent years, Africa has seen significant economic growth, with many countries developing rapidly and becoming more integrated into the global economy. The history of Africa is rich and complex. It has a long history of civilization, trade, and cultural exchange. However, during the late 19th and early 20th century, Many European countries colonized Africa. For example, Britain, France, and Portugal controlled large parts of the continent. This colonization greatly affected Africa's politics, society, and economy, and it influenced the languages spoken there today. For instance, English is widely spoken in Nigeria and Kenya, while French is common in Senegal and Ivory Coast. Despite the challenges of colonialization, African nations began seeking independence in the mid-20th century, and many achieved it. Today, Africa is making great strides in governance, economic development, and regional cooperation. One of the pivotal moments in the history of Africa and Indonesia's relations was the ASEAN-African Conference held in Bandung, Indonesia in 1955. This historic conference brought together leaders from 29 ASEAN and African countries to discuss mutual interests and strategies for combating colonialism and promoting economic and cultural cooperation. The Indonesian embassy in Addis Ababa and our embassy in several countries in Africa plays a crucial role in maintaining and strengthening the diplomatic ties between Indonesia and Africa. As one of Indonesia's representatives on the continent, our embassy is dedicated to fostering diplomatic relations, promoting trade and investment, and enhancing cultural exchange between Indonesia and African nations. We also actively engage with the African Union, working together on various initiatives. Africa is very important for Indonesia. The continent is a key partner in South-South cooperation and a strategic ally in global forums. Africa's growing economies, rich natural resources, and young populations offer many opportunities for working together with us. For Indonesia, connecting with Africa helps us expand our global presence, diversify our economic partnerships, and contribute to global peace and development. There is a huge potential for collaboration between Indonesia and Africa, especially for our young generation. I would like to encourage my dear friends in Indonesia, sisters and brothers, to know about the development in Africa, because it opens up numerous opportunities for collaboration and mutual growth. Understanding these developments can lead to beneficial partnerships in many sectors and enhancing Indonesia's global presence. Finally, I'm pleased to invite you all to actively participate, share your insights, and engage in meaningful discussions as we explore the dynamic development in Africa and Indonesia's role in this vibrant continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. We move forward to the next item on the agenda. We would like to invite Honorable Vice President of International Relations, Indonesian Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Bernardino Vega, to deliver the opening address. The room is yours, Mr. Bernardino Vega.
Good afternoon. His Excellency Ambassador Al-Busra Basnur, Ambassador of Indonesia to Ethiopia, Djibouti, and the African Union. His Excellency Dr. Fadlizon, Chairman of the Interparliamentary Cooperation Committee, House of Representatives of the Republic of Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed speakers and participants from academia and as well as the business sector and from various sectors. First of all, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to Ambassador Basnur and Dr. Fadlizon, of course, for organizing this event today. As we approach the 70th anniversary of the 1955 Asia-Africa Conference, or the Bandung Conference, Indonesia will host the second Indonesia-Africa Forum in September this year. As many of you know, we at Kadin are now seeking to support Indonesian business to diversify and expand our export base, and as well as explore new opportunities for non-traditional markets, including Africa. On this occasion, allow me to share with you some highlights and observations and convince you why Africa, although considered a non-traditional market for Indonesia, has long been a traditional partner for Indonesia and will play an important role in the future, not just for Indonesia's economic diplomacy, but also for the world. First of all, on demographics, we often say that this century will be the Asian century, with China and India leading the global economic growth. But if you look at the statistics, this century will not only be an Asian century, it will also be an African century. Africa boasts the world's youngest population in the world. Its population is growing 3 times faster than the global average. Its countries like Ethiopia and Nigeria, the average median age is 17 to 19 years, compared to Japan, with a median age of 49 years old, or even China and the United States at 38, or even India and Indonesia at 28, 29. This youthful dynamism is a center for the future of the global economy. In 1950, Africa accounted for just 10% of the world's population. By 2100, the United Nations estimates that Africa's population will exceed 40% of the world. This demographic dividend represents a unique opportunity for growth and innovation. In the next 20 years, African countries will increase their prime age working population by 400 million, even if they achieve the same productivity gains as China over the next 40 years. Africa would increase its GDP by 15-fold, or a gain of $52 trillion, producing 60% increase over the world's total GDP by 2021. If ASEAN is the epicenter of growth, demographic trends are now placing Africa front and center as the one region that can sustain global growth. By 2050, about 40% of the people under the age of 18 will be African. If you don't see that as an enormous potential, then let me repeat again by saying that by 2050, 1 in 4 people in the world will be from Africa. For far too long, we have often sidelined Africa, but now Africa demands everybody's attention, not just to give it support, but because it's vital to the world. This brings me to my second point, an Africa that will be a more active and confident Africa. Africa is vast and rich, 10 times the size of India and 3 times the size of China. On the ground, Africa has the largest uncultivated arable land in the world, which will be important for Africa to feed its population. Below ground, you'll find Africa's vast mineral resources, which account for more than 30% of the world's mineral reserves, many of which are critical for renewable and low carbon energy. Much like Indonesia, large nickel reserve will play an important role in the EV ecosystem. And above ground, you'll find Africa's enormous potential for renewable energy, which would be critical in providing affordable and reliable electricity for Africa. In fact, we speak today that 22 African countries already use renewable in their primary source of electricity, most of which are derived from hydropower and some from solar and geothermal. We must recognize that Africa, to realize its potential, must address the major obstacles that it still remains, such as those related to infrastructure, food and energy security, and most importantly, the downstreaming of natural resources. These obstacles are not new, but they are also the challenges that Indonesia has faced in its development agenda. So Indonesia's past experience in providing basic infrastructure as well as in mineral downstreaming activities can serve as a model that can be applied to Africa. This is what Indonesia is trying to capitalize on Indonesia's commitment to Africa, not just rhetoric, but backed by concrete actions. In the energy sector, Indonesia is now involved in various projects from oil and gas to renewable energy like geothermal in different African countries, such as Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, and South Africa, allowing both Indonesia and Africa to maximize opportunities for economic growth and energy security. Our collaboration should not just be limited to these areas, and Indonesia and Africa share a similar vision to prosper and become development nations in the coming decades. Indonesia has this vision of Indonesia Mas 2045 and Africa with its agenda of Africa 2063. The opportunities for cooperation in the future are enormous. With the priorities of the incoming administration, Indonesia's focus on the development of agriculture and industrial downstreaming will be higher than ever. In conclusion, the historical modalities guided by the Bandung Conference in 1955 and shared vision for Indonesia Emas 2045 and Africa Vision 2063 can serve as North Star for this cooperation. Thank you very much.
We extend our sincere gratitude for Mr. Bernardino Vega for his opening address. Now we move to the next agenda, and we are also privileged to have with us Honorable Dr. Fadli Zon, Chair of the Committee for Inter-Parliamentary Cooperation of the Indonesian Parliament, who will deliver the keynote speech this afternoon. The stage is now yours, Honorable.
Thank you. Excellency Ambassador Al-Busra Basnur, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to Ethiopia, Djibouti, and the African Union, Vice Chair of Inter-Parliamentary Cooperation Committee, Honorable Putus Padmarudana. Also, we have here some members of Inter-Parliamentary Cooperation Committee, Ibu Honorable Ade Rossi, Bapak Ravindra, and also Pak Kamru Samad, Honorable Mr. Bernardino Vega, Vice President of International Relations, Indonesian Chamber of Commerce, Honorable panelists, distinguished participants, we have here students from Indonesian Student Association for International Studies, ISAFIS, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace be upon us all. Allow me to first extend my heartfelt gratitude and highest appreciation to the Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to Ethiopia, Djibouti, and the African Union for their collaboration in conducting this international seminar on Africa in today's world. Where is Indonesia? Challenging question, provocative. It is a pleasure for me to share parliamentary insight on how Parliament can play a pivotal role in diplomacy with African countries. Recently, last month, we sent to delegations to Zimbabwe and also to Namibia for the diplomacy with the parliamentary diplomacy works, just last month. And also to Tanzania, and I just recently came back from Zanzibar in Tanzania a couple weeks ago. Ladies and gentlemen, in recent decades, Africa has increased its prominent role in global contestation. This continent has an abundance of strategic resources that promise demographic growth and future economic development, all of which give African countries leverage in the geopolitical arena. The African continent is home to 30% of world's mineral reserves, and the demand for these resources is anticipated to exceed 315,000 tons by 2030, which is more than double the volume in 2021. These strategic resource commercial opportunities enhance their importance as prominent global economic actors. In addition to having rich natural resources, Africa's economic growth is predicted to gain positive momentum in the upcoming years. Despite the slowdown in regional GDP growth, which declined to 3.1% in 2023 from 4.1% in 2022, the continent is set to remain the second fastest growing region after Asia. So projections indicate that Africa's population will reach this 2.5 billion by 2050, accounting for approximately 25% of the global population. So it anticipates that this favorable demographics will lead to the African middle class reaching 1.1 billion by 2060. The African region is still among the most promising non-traditional market destinations, including for Indonesia. And Indonesia currently has a unique political capital compared to other nations. Indonesia has diplomatic relations with 54 countries, including 46 countries in Sub-Saharan Africa region and 8 countries in the Middle East and North Africa, MENA. However, for far too long, Indonesia has taken the backseat in terms of African affairs. Despite being the founding father of the Asia-African Conference in 1955 and the Non-Aligned Movement, NAM, Indonesia has not yet fully capitalized on its partnerships with African nations. It is regrettable that Indonesia's embassies are only present in 16 of the 54 African countries, and many of these embassies are accredited to multiple countries. Moreover, the Ministry of Trade only assigns one trade attaché to the Indonesian embassy in Cairo, Egypt, and maintains 2 Indonesian Trade Promotion Centers, ITPC, in Johannesburg, South Africa, and Lagos, Nigeria. It is likely that Indonesian companies were hesitant to extend their businesses into African markets. To address these challenges, Indonesia needs to identify its unique position in the context of African cooperation. Currently, Indonesia has repositioned itself as a prominent player in global politics. If Indonesia aims to be center of political and economic gravity, this country should expand its international cooperation beyond its own region. Indonesia needs to intensify cooperation between African countries in order to gain a crucial geostrategic position on the African continent. The Bandung Spirit and NAM provide Indonesia with the necessary leverage to promote South-South cooperation with African countries. African countries began to shift their political and economic dependency from former colonial countries in Europe, and the Bandung legacy provided familiarity and ease of understanding for their partners. So this is an opportunity for Indonesia, for us, to increase cooperation with Africa, which is widely open. To ensure the effective implementation of Indonesia's diplomacy in the African region, it is imperative to establish a roadmap that involves all stakeholders, including the government, parliament, business sectors, and civil society. We also need to find potential but untapped strategic sectors for cooperation in Africa. Health, food security, and sustainable energy are among the highly promising sectors for future cooperation. Indonesia has successfully established the foundation for pharmaceutical cooperation through vaccine distribution assistance during the COVID-19 pandemic in Africa. We need to intensify high-level visits from the government and parliament, especially during the first half of the term of service. It is imperative to indicate the importance of African countries to Indonesia's foreign policy. Parliament has a pivotal role in strengthening national diplomacy, engaging in meaningful dialogues with other parliaments, and conducting their diplomatic mission individually. The Indonesian House of Representatives, through the Committee for Interparliamentary Cooperation, BKSAP, committed to strengthening Indonesia's geostrategic position through interparliamentary relations and international forums. Strengthening parliamentary cooperation in the framework of South-South cooperation and the African region is also part of our strategic plan for diplomacy. And currently, BKSAP has bilateral friendship groups with 16 African countries, namely Egypt, Morocco, Tanzania, Senegal, Sudan, Tunisia, Kenya, South Africa, Madagascar, Malawi, Mauritius, Namibia, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, and Algeria. In 2015, the Indonesian House of Representatives hosted the Parliamentary Conference in commemoration of the 60th anniversary of the Asian African Conference. Reaffirming our parliamentary commitment, this year, the House of Representatives of Indonesia, this coming year actually, the House of Representatives of Indonesia will host the second Asian and African conference. But this year, we plan on the September, the House of Representatives of Indonesia will host the Indonesia-Africa Parliamentary Forum 2024 with the theme, Forging Indonesia-Africa Parliamentary Partnership for Development. We aim to build a comprehensive plan for long-term development and parliamentary cooperation between Indonesia and Africa. Through this seminar and discussion, I hope we can gain insight regarding potential cooperation between two regions. It is necessary for us to broaden our perspective on harnessing potential cooperation with non-traditional partners such as African countries. And finally, I hope that this discussion and the upcoming Indonesia-Africa Parliamentary Forum in Bali next September will encourage public-private partnerships and increase people-to-people contacts between Indonesia and the African region, which can serve as an opportunity to build mutual trust and understanding and strengthen our diplomatic ties. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Honorable. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for our discussion session. We would like to invite the moderator of the discussion session, the expert staff of the Committee for Interparliamentary Cooperation of the Indonesian Parliament, who will guide us through the insightful conversations ahead. Please welcome Ms. Masyitoh Anissa Ramadhani, who will set the stage for our discussions. The room is yours, Ms. Masyitoh.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Once again, I would like to greet the Excellency Chair of the Committee for Interparliamentary Cooperation, Excellency Bapak Dr. Fadlizon, Excellency the Vice Chair of the Committee for Interparliamentary Cooperation, Bapak Putu Supatmarudana, His Excellency Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to Ethiopia, Djibouti, and the African Union, joining us online from the capital of African Union in Addis Ababa, His Excellency Ambassador Al-Bushra Basnur, and also Honorable Vice President of International Relations of Indonesian Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Bernardino Veiga, Honorable Panelist, Ibu, the Director of the Africa from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, Ibu Dewi Justisia, and also Bapak Mintarjo Halim, Chair of the African Regional Committee, Chamber of Commerce of Indonesia, and all of the honorable panelists, including our honorable member of the Committee for Interparliamentary Cooperation, Ibu Ade Rossi, Bapak Rafindra, and also Bapak Kamaru Samad. Welcome all of the participants, and I think we have got a lot of explanations and also sharing, especially from our honorable Ambassador Al-Bushra Basnur, about the current situations and also the current opportunities and challenges pertaining to Indonesia and Africa relations. Now we have with us our panelists with a very of expertise and also background, who will helpfully could shape the debates and also contribute to the succeed of our visions to enhance the cooperation between Indonesia and Africa, and also to support and strengthen our vision toward the 70 or the Platinum Jubilee of the Indonesia-Africa relations. Now, Maybe just a short introduction, because I believe we all understand the background of this seminar, but just to shortly bring you to the context of the discussion before I invite the panelists. It's been almost 7 decades after the historic ASEAN-African Conference. The Bandung spirit, which all countries remember, the spirit carries on, is not over yet, because it's still inspiring all of the countries to maintain relations and to strengthen cooperation, not just in the South-South cooperation, but also the countries in the global South, as well as to maintain relations with the countries in the global North, or we call it sometimes the developed countries. And in this regard, it is important for countries in Africa, especially, to enhance their cooperation with one of the most promising country who has the vision, or we call it as Indonesia Golden Vision 2045, to put Indonesia to be one of the countries with at the fourth developed countries in 2045. Now, we see that there remain so many challenges pertaining to our two continents relations, ranging from conflicts, war, poverty, climate disasters, and not to mention the gravest levels of great power competitions, and also geopolitical division, and also, most importantly, the financial system, which exacerbates the systemic inequalities that amplifies the social and economic inequalities in most of the countries in the world. So we are glad to have with us our esteemed panelists. With us now, I would like to briefly introduce our panelists for today's discussion. First, we have Dr. Lawali Cole, the Executive Director of the Coalition on Media and Education for Development African Forum, African Union, joining us from Addis Ababa. Good morning maybe, Pak, from Addis Ababa, and good afternoon here in Jakarta. Second, we have Ms. Dewi Justisia Mediawati, the Director of African Affairs, joining us here in person from Jakarta. Ibu Dewi is the Director of African Affairs, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. Third, we have Mr. Mintarjo Halim, the Chair of the African Regional Committee, Chamber of Indonesian Commerce in Jakarta. And then, since I mentioned earlier that we have a variety of backgrounds of the panelists, now we have the panelists from academicians. We have Bapak Taufan Teguh Akbari, the Vice Rector of the LSPR Institute on Communication and the founder of Millennial Berdaya Nusantara Foundation in Jakarta. And then we have from Harambee University in Addis Ababa, Mr. Dr. Bekele Shibru. And then we have from Surabaya, Bapak Irfan Wahyudi. And also last but not least, we have the president of the OES Global Foundation, Mr. Kemal Abdillah. Now, without further ado, I would like to kindly invite our first panelist, Dr. Lawali Cole, the Executive Director of the Coalition on Media and Education for Development African Forum. Good morning, Bapak Lawali. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs, in Ethiopia. Now, Dr. Cole has more than 30 years of progressively responsible experience in teaching, policy formulation, and also implementation in the field of education and communication for development. And he previously worked for UNICEF in countries like Gambia, Mali, and Zambia. With his extensive experience, I believe today we will hear the very interesting thought and also ideas on how we could together address the challenge that we all shared pertaining to education and development. Now, please, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, moderator. Your Excellency, Dr. Fadlizon, Chairman of the Committee for the Interparliamentary Cooperation, House of Representatives of the Republic of Indonesia, Your Excellency, Ambassador Al-Busria Basno, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to Ethiopia, Djibouti, and the African Union, Your Excellency Mr. Bernardo Vega, Vice President of International Relations in Indonesia Chamber of Commerce, distinguished guests, fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen, It's a great pleasure to be here this morning to be part of this panel and to talk about Africa and Asia's historical and socio-economic relations. First of all, let me begin by looking at some historical facts about Africa. I know that the previous speakers, Ambassador Bursia and others, have already delved a little bit into this, but just to recall some of these issues that I think are very important. I have only 7 minutes to speak, I'm told, but I will try to do my best to be as brief as possible. First of all, Africa had very advanced societies before colonialism. Africa had sophisticated societies with advanced governance, trade, and cultural systems. We had kingdoms in Mali, Ghana, there was a great Zimbabwe, and there was a great Ethiopian empire also, as we all know it. And these kingdoms and empires thrived with economies based on gold, salt, and ivory trade. However, as the previous speakers have already pointed out, Africa was disrupted by a great deal by European intervention. First of all, we had slave trade. There was this transatlantic slave trade, and also there was also within Africa also what we call the trans-Saharan slave trade. We also had the East African slave trade, and this had devastating impacts, leading to the population and economic stagnation of the continent. Then this was followed by colonialism, where we had, first of all, in around 1884, 1885, we had what we call the Scramble for Africa, which imposed foreign governance and exploited resources and disrupting our local economies. And then, after that, came independence in Africa during the late 1950s to up to the 1970s. One by one, African countries were gaining their independence. But then, this was not all. Independence had its own challenges also. We had what we call neo-colonialism. That is to say that even though we were independent, but there was still the influence of the colonizing powers in our economies, and we became very economically dependent. And because in post-independence Africa, our countries faced artificial borders, we had a lot of ethnic conflicts, and also, as I said, economic dependence was there, and this also perpetuated a lot of underdevelopment. We are not so developed in Africa. And today, in Africa, we have a new phenomenon that is arising. I mean, it is not all entirely new, but it's something that has to be stopped, because we talk about corruption, we talk about economic mismanagement. Also, as the previous speakers have pointed out, we have had what we call the youth bulge, where Africa is supposed to have the largest number of youths, by the year 2050, more than Asia and more than China and India combined, I would say. Okay, so we have that also. And this, if we are not careful in Africa, it might also contribute to hindering our development. That's why education, training, science, technology are so important. And that's where we are going to go towards, working with Asia in general and Indonesia in particular. The African Union has a very, very important role to play in all of this. First of all, the EU now is supposed to ensure political stability in the continent. It's supposed to ensure economic integration in Africa. It is supposed to ensure that we have social development on the continent. EU has already gone out with a lot of initiatives already. We have Agenda 2063, which is the blueprint for Africa's development. And recently, of course, many countries have signed the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which is still not materializing as much as we expect it to be so far. Now, if I want to make a comparative analysis of Africa and Asia, I would say this. that the two continents share colonial histories and diverse cultures. However, they have different economic development trajectories, which are quite significant indeed. We have also the issues of governance and economic outcomes. Asia has industrialized very rapidly, while Africa's industrialization has been very, very slow. And Africa has been very slow, and we need to learn a lot of lessons from how Asia was able to do this rapidly. We talk about South Korea, Ghana. They were at the same level in 1957 when Ghana had its independence. Same level of GDP. But look at the difference today between South Korea and Ghana. Ghana is down there, South Korea is up there. And the same thing happens with Indonesia and other countries that have had all these kind of phenomena going on throughout their histories. Also, governance issues have been a problem because in Africa, as I said, there's mismanagement, corruption, and so on. But again, Africa has had the largest number of military coups, whether successful or unsuccessful, in the world. Asia has had a few military coups, and basically in Thailand and Myanmar. But basically, their economies have thrived, despite of that. So, coming back to Africa and Asia in particular, Indonesia in particular, I would say that the African continent and Indonesia share a rich history of interaction from early trade to post-colonial solidarity. The Bandung Conference of 1955 has been mentioned several times before me. And of course, that was the basis for our relations and our development. Also, we have had growing economic cooperation, which includes trade in textiles, electronics, and agricultural products. And as far as Ethiopia is concerned, this trade is continuing now, although to a smaller extent, as one of the speakers, His Excellency, pointed out earlier on. But then we have a lot of opportunities for collaboration. We have collaboration, we should collaborate in many, many areas. For example, in the area of renewable energy, digital technology, education in particular. This offer very, very, very promising avenues for deeper cooperation. And I would certainly like to say that those for our listeners in here and those in Indonesia, we should look into this more. I have prepared a paper on this, which will be published, which I'll give to Ambassador. He can share it with our friends in Indonesia, and we'll see. But to conclude, I would like to acknowledge the challenges in Africa-Indonesia relations, because as I said earlier, and this has been pointed out also by my predecessors who spoke before me, the keynote speeches, the volume of trade is rather low at the moment. And we have a lot of infrastructural barriers also. And I think both Ethiopia and Indonesia need to look into this. But I'm very, very optimistic for the future. I think by leveraging shared experiences and fostering strategic partnerships, Africa and Indonesia can work towards a more prosperous and interconnected future. I would like to call for action. My call for action is this. Let us continue to strengthen these ties and explore new areas of collaboration for the benefit of our regions and the global community. And finally, let me emphasize the importance of leveraging shared experiences and fostering strategic partnerships for a prosperous and interconnected future. Let me thank you all, the audience, for listening. Let me thank our friends in Indonesia who are listening to me too. And once again, for giving me the opportunity to speak. And I look forward to further discussions here. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lawali. Merci pour votre présentation. Now we would like to move on to the second speaker for this seminar. But before we come to Ibu Dewi, maybe just a short brief summary on what Dr. Lawali already mentioned, that there are a wide range of areas of cooperation that can be explored by both Indonesia and also Africa, especially when we look at the vision of the interconnectedness future between our two countries. as Dr. Cole mentioned, in the areas such as energy, digital technology, education, and most importantly, through people-to-people connection. And this is what the Indonesian House of Representatives is now doing, that we would like to foster the interconnectedness between the people in Indonesia and Africa, especially by hosting the second Indonesia-Africa parliamentary meeting that will be held this September. Now, we would like to kindly invite our second panelist, Ibu Dewi Justisia Mediawati, the Director of African Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. We are glad to have you here with us, Ibu, despite your busy schedule traveling around Africa, maybe to prepare for the Platinum Jubilee of Indonesia-Africa Conference. Ibu Dewi has extensive duty experience at the MOFA, ranging from trade and investment facilitation section, and then information and cultural section, political affairs, and most importantly, about the economic development and sectoral cooperation. Now, Ibu Dewi, as Indonesia has established relations with African countries I have checked before with Ibu, and hopefully it's correct, with 54 countries in Africa, and is represented by 17 embassies, 1 consulate general, and 31 honorary consuls. Please correct me if I were wrong. And in reciprocal, we have 16 diplomatic representatives of African countries in Jakarta, with Angola now in process. Now, with all of the potentials and also resources that we have pertaining to the two countries' relations, we would like to hear more from you on what sort of challenges and also opportunities that we still need to unveil to foster the two countries or the two regions' relations, especially when we would like to know about Indonesia's vision and commitment on strengthening the Asia-Africa cooperation, and to put an emphasis on the Indonesia-Africa relations as we commemorate the 70th anniversary of the ASEAN-African Conference. Now, without further ado, I would like to kindly invite Ibu Dewi to share her thought on these discussions. The floor is yours, Ibu.
Thank you, Mbak Masito. Maybe I should say good morning to colleagues and His Excellency Pak Dubes Al Busra in Ethiopia, and also to Honorable Bapak Putus. Thank you. And all of the speakers that are representing Indonesia and Ethiopia today. Thank you for having us in this meeting. Actually, I have slides to show, but I think some of it already also mentioned by previous speakers. Maybe we should go to the first slide. So as our previous speakers already mentioned about how is the establishment of the Indonesia-Africa relations that goes back to ASEAN-African Conference in Bandung in 1955, and how the deepening of the relations up to today, that we think it is important to kind of like revitalize the relations because of our benefit of having sort of like political connections and historical connections since the very beginning of the establishment of our two countries, of our two continents. Therefore, I think it is time for us to really translate these political relations into more transformative economic relations, as us as in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is doing nowadays. Next. So as mentioned by Mbak Maisito, you are correct. We have this the shape and the characteristic of the relations between our country and African countries. We have 6 Indonesian embassies in North Africa, 11 Indonesian embassies in Sub-Saharan Africa, 1 consulate general in Sub-Saharan Africa, and 2 trade promotion centers. And in Indonesia, we have 7 North African missions, 9 Sub-Saharan African missions, and we will have another new Angolan embassy in Jakarta. Maybe I should mention here that after the pandemic, we currently having 4 African countries open the embassy.
in 2022 we have Kenya, and in the 2023 we have Tanzania, and this year we have Rwanda, and then we will have Angola. Yeah, so it's a very promising development of the two relations between the two nations and countries. If we're talking about the opportunities and the challenges, as mentioned by Mbak Maisito, one of the challenges that we have, maybe of the the connection, the connectivity between our two distant regions, but we don't want to forget that we also have many opportunities. As mentioned by the previous speakers, we have the democratic boost, we have young populations as a demographic bonus that we should really nurture and we should really promote. By which we can have it through the, giving the scholarships, for examples. As Dr. Lawale Cole mentioned, that education is a very important to the relations between the people-to-people connection. So what we have in mind, we are having the scholarships, and we also provide a vocational education and training, and we also promote our Indonesian aid that is established in 2019 as one of the tools to boost our presence and our economic relations with African countries. And we also know that the two countries have the abundant mineral resources, and we have the capacity of making it a downstream policies, while we can share and learn with each other how to make it a value-added industry through these mineral resources that we have. And one of the issues that also important is the digital economy. As we know, during the pandemic, our economy is really supported by our SMEs and as well as our digital economy. And it is also happening in Africa, in which it is also growing in Africa. It is stated that the e-commerce in Africa will grow by 2030 to $72 billion. So it is one promising area that should be further explored between our two countries. Next. So this is sort of like efforts that we have already built since 2018, in which we try to transform our political ties, our historical connections into a more concrete and economic relations between Indonesia and Africa. We have our Indonesia-Africa Forum in 2018, in which we invite 54 countries, ranging from government representatives into private sectors and international organizations. And we have this kind of business deals, economic cooperation, worth $500 million US dollar. So we have it in IAF, the first one in 2018, and we follow it up with the Indonesia-Africa Infrastructure Dialogue in 2019, and the participations is even bigger at that time. However, the pandemic happened in 2020, so we now preparing for the 2024, the Indonesia-Africa Forum, the second. Next. Next. This one is, we will have it in the 2nd to 3rd September, in which it will be located in Mulia Hotel in Bali. The theme will bring the Bandung spirit into Africa's Agenda 2063. We also invite 24 leaders from Africa. It is a bit different with our first Indonesia-Africa Forum, in which we only invited the ministers, but now we invite 24 head of states or head of governments. And as some speakers also mentioned, what are the issues that should be further explored. So we will bring the economic transformation issues, energy, mining cooperation, food security and health, and of course the development cooperation program into the discussions between our representatives later on in the Indonesia-Africa Forum the second. And we also will invite the private sectors from each countries to Indonesia to have business matching and exhibitions, to attend exhibitions for this IAF2. Can you go to the, yeah. So as Pak Jokowi mentioned that we support the Agenda 2063, this is the agenda of the African Union. And that's why Pak Jokowi had the historical visit to Africa. The slides before. Yes. Last year, Pak Jokowi visited 4 African countries, mostly in Eastern Africa, because we kind of like deciding the countries. It's not a very easy decision because we have 54 countries, so we have to choose some of it. So we choose it based on our relations and how well developed the relations is. For example, with Tanzania and Kenya, we had their embassies open last year, so we visited that countries, and then also to Mozambique. Why? Because we have the first preferential trade agreement with Mozambique, with Africa, with Mozambique. And also with the South Africa. Why? Because they are our strategic partnership, the only country that has a strategic partnership with Indonesia. So I think with the way forward, the next, no. Sebelumnya. No. Terus, no. Yang ada Pak Prabowo. Way forward, yes. The way forward for Indonesia's foreign policy, I think it will continue to shape up the relations between Indonesia and Africa, and how it is important to focus on Africa as our non-traditional market, and then our long historic friendship, and how we can elaborate more on the relations between the two countries, between Indonesia and Africa, on how we can create a more equal partnership and how we can support each other. So that is a bit of our brief for this afternoon for further discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Dewi, for sharing your meaningful expertise and experience. Actually, what interests me from Ibu Dewi explanation was about the word abundant mineral resources, which reminds me of the movie of Wakanda, because like it shows the beauty of Africa, which maybe only few people know that Africa has a hidden gem with maybe not everyone understand, or maybe not everyone is aware of the beauty of Africa and realize about it. And actually there are still some remaining questions from our side, from my side personally to Ibu Dewi, but maybe we can explore later in the Q&A if we had some time, about the current economic, or we call it in the trade aspect, while Indonesia has maybe only one at this moment with Mozambique, the IMPTA, the Preferential Trade Agreement with Mozambique currently, and also maybe still on process with Mauritius and Tanzania. Yeah, we have still on process of establishing the stronger cooperation on trade and also commerce with Africa. But it just intrigues me to think about like what Pak Putu always advocates about the EU SEPA. Why would it be possible for us in the future if we have the Indonesia Africa SEPA, for instance? I mean, this is just a vision in the future that maybe with the EU we have, with other continents, countries we have, but what about Africa? Is it possible, or how do we forecast the future of our economic relations with Africa? Anyway, now we will move to our third speaker, today we have Bapak Mintarjo Halim. Yeah, he is the chair of the African Regional Committee of Chamber of Commerce of Indonesia. Glad to see you here with us, Bapak. And in terms of commerce and trade, the bilateral relation with Indonesia and Africa have been improving with main exports of Indonesia such as palm products, soap, coffee, pepper, and many others. And I believe that Kadin has also established a relation with countries such as Rwanda, Namibia, South Africa, and many others in terms of commerce and trade. Now, today we hope to hear from you, Bapak, about your views on the vast untapped potentials of commerce between Indonesia and Africa countries, especially on the challenges from business sectors and how this can be addressed together through our multi-stakeholder partnership in this forum, because we have parliament, we have business sectors, and we have government here and civil society as well as academicians. So without further ado, I would like to kindly invite Bapak Mintarjo Halim to deliver his remarks. Please, Pak.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam, Excellency Dr. Fadlizon, Chairman of the Committee for the Parliamentary Cooperation, House of the Representative of the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Dr. Al-Basera Basnur, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to Ethiopia, Djibouti, and African Union. Pak Putu, Pak Bu Dewi, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mr. Mintarjo Halim, Head of Committee for Africa at Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or Kadin. Kadin acts as an umbrella association for all industry and businesses in Indonesia as mandated by law. Kadin serves as the voice of the private sector. Relations between Indonesia and Africa have always been strong and dynamic. For decades, Indonesia has largely as the host of the 1955 Asia-Africa Conference, which was aimed to build global solidarity in opposing colonialism and seeking economic and culture cooperation among newly independent countries. This conference is known as the world as the Bandung Spirit. The conference serves as the foundation for the advancement of cooperation between Asia and Africa nations through initiatives such as the Non-Alignment Movement and the 2005 New ASEAN-Africa Strategic Partnership, NAASP. The first Indonesian Africa Forum was hosted in 2018 in Nusa Dua, Bali, and we will be hosting the second EIF in Bali at Mulia Hotel on the 1st to the 3rd of September this year. Stepping forward for these potential and historical legacies, Indonesia has the ambition to improve economic relations with Africa. Indonesia is the largest economy in ASEAN, the world's 5th largest nation by landmass, a population of about 280 million, with huge potential agriculture, fishery, mining, banking, AI, and so on. Indonesia is on track to become the world's 4th largest economy by 2050. To maintain its economic growth, Indonesia has made its roots in diversifying export bases to include more complex sectors. Indonesia can start with Africa as an alternative to traditional markets. although its purchasing power is below other traditional markets. Africa is almost promising in terms of market size growth. However, not many Indonesian exporters have entered the African market because of the continent trade barriers and high tariff. Therefore, Indonesia and Africa have to talk about the trade relation to reduce the tariff and trade barrier, so our economy can grow together. Don't focus really on USA and EU. At the moment, we have signed FTA and PTA plus with ASEAN, China, Japan, Korea, Australia, Pakistan, Chile, and more. At the moment, we only have PTA with Mozambique, and currently we are in the PTA discussion with Mauritius and Djibouti. The FTA with Ethiopia and other countries, we are also on discussion. Rwanda is now asking Indonesia to start PTA with PTA discussion, but we don't have reply on them yet. But they already asked for Indonesia. Economic numbers have clearly shown Africa's potential. The economic of sub-Saharan Africa grew around 3.5% in 2016, the second highest in the world after Asia. In 2020, according to the IMF, Africa is the second largest continent that enjoyed the high growth of 4.3%. Furthermore, in terms of population, approximately 62% of the African population is under 25 years old, meaning that there will be a surplus workforce that can help increase African economic growth even higher. It is predicted that in 2034, Africa will have the world's largest working age population of 1.1 billion. Understanding this fundamental, we believe that it is the right time for Indonesia and Africa to strengthen economic cooperation. In Indonesia, export can enter and complete in Africa, particularly manufacturing product, as Africa countries generally lack basic manufacturing industry. This makes it easier for our manufacturing industry export to enter the market. Our competitive export to Africa include palm product, soap, motor vehicle, pipes, food, and paper product. Moving forward, the next step, Indonesia sees African country as a strategic partner for sustainable and continued growth, especially in the sector of trade, infrastructure, manufacturing, finance, IT, mining, and energy, and so on. To realize all economic potential, it is important to pursue greater economic cooperation among all relevant stakeholders. In this way, we are hoping for more government support to facilitate trade agreement, such as professional trade agreement, as the PTA, or free trade agreement, the FTA, with potential African country, so more Indonesian and African businesses can expand together. Thank you.
Thank you, Bapak Mintarjo Halim, for sharing your experiences based on the field experiences on how the challenges in terms of trade and also commerce have some barriers which maybe need to to be addressed together by not just the Kadin itself, but also all of us present here, Parliament, government, and also academician, and also all parts, all elements of the society. Because when we talk about the relations between Indonesia and Africa, it is not just about the people-to-people connection, political cooperation, but most importantly about the trade and economic cooperation that needs to be boosted given the two regions' potentials. Now, as we are reminded by the timekeeper that we have time constraint in this seminar, so hopefully for the honorable next speaker, you will be having 5 minutes for each next three speakers. Now, for the next speaker, I would like to kindly invite Bapak Taufan Teguh Akbari, the Vice Rector and Head of Sustainability and Leadership of LSPR and the founder of Millennial Berdaya Nusantara Foundation. So from Bapak Taufan, we hope to hear more from you about how you see the people-to-people connections and how social and cultural elements play a pivotal role in enhancing Indonesia and Africa relations, especially that we are going to commemorate the Platinum Jubilee of the Indonesia-Africa relations. Now for Bapak Taufan Teguh Akbari, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator, Ibu Maisito. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace be upon us. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and esteemed speakers, Dehina Keseati ke Indonesia, or good afternoon from Indonesia. I took it from Amharic language. Thank you for the invitation, His Excellency Bapak Dr. Fadlizon, Chairman of the Committee for Interparliamentary Cooperation, House of Representatives of the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Dr. Honoris Causa Al Busra Basnur, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to Ethiopia, Djibouti, and the African Union, and among other respected speakers whom I deeply respect. It's an honor for me to be part of this great event with the title Africa in Today's World, whereas Indonesia is very provocative title, and I believe the session would bring a great benefit for all of us. Talking about Africa actually is very interesting since I have a very limited time, 5 until 6 minutes. Africa is very interesting and important for two main reasons. First, Africa has experienced rapid development in recent times, particularly in the field of economy and education. Africa will become the future of the world. More and more countries around the world are now paying attention to Africa. And second, the understanding of Africa amongst Indonesians today is still very limited. Over 90% of Indonesians are unaware of the latest development in Africa, especially in the fields of economy and, of course, education. In fact, over the last 2 until 3 decades, many countries, particularly advanced economies, have flocked to engage and collaborate in Africa, primarily in economic and, of course, educational partnership. And the Indonesian government has undertaken various strategic activities and programs to advance Indonesia-Africa relations and cooperations. And however, these efforts need to be enhanced through continuous and collaborative efforts from both governmental and non-governmental sectors. And when it comes into economic and cooperation diplomacy, I think Indonesia has not exactly hit the mark in Africa. Why? We've made numerous commitments, but the follow-through has been lacking. There is still a long road ahead, and especially when compared to other countries that have successfully established and developed economic partnership. Indeed, now there are more 30 Indonesian companies investing in Africa, but this number is quite small given the potential and in comparison to other countries. Like currently 6 Indonesian companies are investing in Ethiopia, but only 3 are operating smoothly. This is due to the various challenges and dynamics on the ground. And meanwhile, China has over 1,000 investments. India has 600 and Turkey has 260 investments. And I believe as Indonesia continues to build and develop economic cooperations, it's also crucial to enhance other strategic collaboration with African countries, particularly in educations. And this includes partnership between higher education institutions and offering more scholarship to African students. And Indonesian-African cooperation in education has been around for a while. Many universities in both regions have signed MOUs. Like several African students study at Indonesian universities, but the fact, actually, the numbers are still small, with only a few dozen students. It's noteworthy that in many African countries that I think there are numbers lecturers and academic and researchers from China, Korea, India, and several European countries. But I think from Indonesia, our countries, the number is still very limited. Like, for instance, in Ethiopia, there are about 2,000 Indian lecturers teaching at various public and private universities, while in contrast, there are only 2 Indonesian lecturers, and they've only been there for the past 2 years, and before that, actually, there were none of us. And the Indonesian government does provide scholarship to the students from various African countries, but again, the number is still very limited. And this scholarship include the developing countries Panelist scholarship as a degree program, and the Dharma Siswa scholarship, a non-degree program. And additionally, several Indonesian universities, both public and private, offer scholarship to African students. The number of scholarship Indonesia provides to African students is still very limited. And this is due to several factors. First, the limited quota of scholarship available to African students. And the second is actually the African students still have to cover various costs to study in Indonesia. And this is a significant consideration for them because it differs from the scholarship offered by other countries, especially China, India, Turkey, and any various European nations. And the third one, many African students are not yet very familiar with Indonesia, and this presents a unique challenges for Indonesia in improving public diplomacy across various African countries. And regarding Indonesian scholarship for African students, there are 2 important points to be noted. First, African youth and students generally have excellent foreign language skills, especially in English and French. They easily secure scholarship from various countries, particularly in Europe and America, as well as from several ASEAN countries like China, India, and Korea. They have the freedom to choose the best scholarship offers. And the second, scholarship offered by various countries to African students usually cover all costs, including round-trip, airfare, and adequate living expenses. They don't need to worry about the additional costs. And this contrasts with Indonesia, where most scholarships offered to African students do not cover all expenses. This is a very challenging situation and a serious consideration for African students. And in conclusions, there are several key points we need to focus on and work on together to strengthen Indonesia relations and cooperation with African countries, ensuring Indonesia active presence in Africa's dynamic environment. First, increase the flow and exchange of information between Indonesia and African countries, especially through mainstream and social media. Strengthen people-to-people connections, especially among academics, youth, particularly students, business professionals, think tanks, and more. Indonesia must increase the scholarship quota for African students starting now. And both the government and private sector should organize youth exchange program between Indonesia and various African countries. And notably in 2023, based on the data that the Indonesian Embassy in Addis Ababa launched the Ethiopia-Indonesian Youth Exchange Program for the first time. And this strategic program should be expanded to other African countries as well. And few last point that we hope, this is I think important point to all our beloved ambassador in all region in Africa. We hope that Indonesian ambassadors in all African countries can play more active roles as a bridge between education sectors of Indonesia and Africa. This proactive engagement could facilitating student exchange, promoting educational collaboration between institutions, and organizing cultural events that enhance a mutual understanding. Because by fostering stronger educational ties, we aim to build enduring partnership that benefit both Indonesian and African communities, fostering academic excellence, and of course, lastly, cultural exchange. The Indonesian government should seriously consider increasing its representation in Africa, because currently Indonesia has 17 embassies and 1 consulate general on a continent with 1 billion people. This is far from sufficient for such a vast continent. Thank you for all active participation today. Remember, the insights we've been shared are just the beginning, actually. Let's continue to explore and implement these ideas to create brighter future together. Have a wonderful day, and thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Back to the moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Taufan, for sharing your meaningful expertise and also experience in the field of education and on how education could play a very critical role in advancing the two regions' connectivity and also relations. Now, I would like to once again remind all of the honorable panelists that we are having some problems given the time limitation in terms of the discussion, because we hope to have the Q&A session afterwards to wrap up, before we wrap up the discussion. Now we have the 5th panelist, Dr. Bekele Shibru Arsedi, the Vice President of Harambee University, Ethiopia, joining us online from Addis Ababa. Now, I would like to kindly invite Dr. Bekele to deliver to sharing your thought and also views on how the education and also cooperation among the higher education between Indonesia and, in your experience in Ethiopia, could play a strategic role in the vision of enhancing to region connectivity. Mr. Bekele, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you very much. His Excellency Dr. Fadlizon, Chair of the Committee for Interparliamentary Cooperation, House of Representatives of the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Al-Busra Basnur, Ambassador of Indonesia to Ethiopia, Djibouti, and the African Union, His Excellency Mr. Fernandino Vega, Vice President of International Relations, Indonesia, Chamber of Commerce, esteemed guests, participants from here in Addis Ababa, Indonesian Embassy, and Indonesia. It is my honor in front of you to share my experience, and I representing Harambee University. Harambee University signed 7 MOU with Indonesian universities. One is from Jakarta, Budi Luhur, and the remaining Malang, Surabaya area, 6. And we are doing well and connected good, based on true friendship. And I want to thank for this connectivity His Excellency Ambassador Busra Basnur. Connectivity relationship mainly based on true friendship. And true friendship comes when we have similar values. Not continent, not country, even two friends to stay longer together, it needs value match. In this regard, something that I want to share that I really observed with my naked eye when I attended the 38th Trade Expo of Indonesia. That time, the Muslim and the Christian believers, the mosque and the cathedral are just opposite to each other. When the Muslim mosque fell, they cross to the cathedral and they pray in the Christian church, vice versa for the Christian too. Had it been this is in Ethiopia or any other Africa, I don't think, not practical, but unthinkable. And I surprised and asked, how you exchange mosque and cathedral and worship in it? And the response I got is, we are believing and worshiping one God, not the building, they said. This is really amazing that we need to share as an African. And the other issue, when we had lunch at the Down City, one of our friends lost his mobile phone in the hotel, and we back to our hotel. Then after 3 hours stay, he remembered forgetting his mobile, and he waked us. We tried to search in his room, but we didn't find. And finally, we didn't expect we can get it, but just to try, let us go to the hotel. And when we back to hotel, after 3 hours, we found our mobile there on the table. We got surprised. Many round people used that table, but still the mobile is there. Nobody touched it. How this happened? And the person extremely satisfied when he see his mobile on the table. Then finally we go to the owner, and why you didn't pick and keep it at least in the reception? No, we didn't pick it. Because if you pick it, when you come back to check your mobile, and if no mobile is there, first thing that you feel is your heart will fall down. You get into deep sadness. So to keep your satisfaction, we never pick that mobile. And the next question I asked was, what if someone take it? No. Nobody will take it because somebody's property is haram. I know the word haram from the childhood, and really I understood what haram is in Indonesia. So really, this is a value that we need to learn from Indonesia. In Africa too, especially on those old good days, we have values, social values. As an African, we like working together, especially rural areas, working for others, working in group, working in synergy. That's our practice that we've grown up. Today, we are deteriorated to individualistic approach. And that was what we missed. Moral values. As an African, almost different countries, you have exemplary values. We have religious values. We have politically that we are progressing, but still we remain work more. We have aesthetic values. In this regard, the Indonesian values, especially those 5 principles of Indonesia, believing in God, they believe truly from their bottom of heart that they live in it, not for the sake of pretending. That is, Africans can learn more from Indonesia. When I see Indonesia, really Indonesia is the true strategic partnership for Africa, because the values from that side, the interest to develop together, mutual growth, mutual respect, that is the key issue. So in this regard, as our previous presenters mentioned, really Africa is the future of this world, and we believe that, and they are working for that. But connectivity with Indonesia in terms of education, academics, economic, business is very crucial, especially in education. I learned a lot from Indonesians. They have already connected with global big institutions like World Bank or Microsoft, World Health Organizations. Their universities are connected. The research papers they presented are really problem-based. So in this regard, African universities connecting with Indonesian universities will have paramount value that fill our specific and critical gap. This is what I want to share. Thank you very much. I appreciate for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bekele, for sharing your ideas. Now, we would like to move to the fifth panelist, Mr. Irfan Wahyudi, the Director of Center of Africa Studies from Universitas Airlangga, Surabaya, joining us online from Surabaya. The existence of Center for African Studies of Asia Africa in University of Airlangga hopefully could also shape and also contribute to enhance our two countries or two region relations, especially in terms of education and also development. Now, I would like to kindly invite Bapak Irfan Wahyudi to share your ideas on this topic.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable, His Excellency Dr. Haji Fadlizon, Chairman of the Committee for Interparliamentary Cooperation, House of Representatives of the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Dr. Al-Bushra Basnur, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to Ethiopia, Djibouti, and the African Union, and all other distinguished speakers. I'm Irfan Wahyudi, and I will be here presenting about the diplomacy through education that I think it's also being raised by the previous speaker. Yeah, I would like to share my screen. All right. So we need to know and for sure that Africa is important part of Indonesian history itself. Yeah. And here at the Africa Study Center in Airlangga University, we're acknowledging that and we are celebrating this kind of activities through exchange of students, and also we are receiving and sending students both to Africa and also receiving students from Africa. We have our own Center of Africa, as we call it, as Universitas Airlangga Center for Africa Studies, that was established in November 2018. Alongside that, we also feel honored that His Excellency Pak Al-Bushra has also become the witness of our development, and he is one of the prominent figure in assisting the development of the center by his appearance at the Visit Unair in November 2019 as a guest lecturer, and it's also become a prominent time where we have students coming from Africa, different countries in Africa, to study both for master or doctorate programs. We have the Universitas Airlangga Center for Africa Studies celebrating what has become celebrated as one of the prominent days, and what we call it as Africa Day, yeah, that we acknowledge every year. And this was the event back in 2019 before the COVID, before the pandemic, where we are gathering much of African students, not only from Universitas Airlangga, but from all around East Java and also around Indonesia, where they are celebrating the Africa Day by joining us and doing seminars and discussing about their connections between Indonesia and Africa. During the pandemic, we try to still having this kind of connections, and it is something that, well, we can say it as a blessing in disguise, where we have this cultural event during pandemic, where we are celebrating even though we are using masks. But African students during that time, they are very passionate in sharing their culture with Indonesians, and we were having this kind of activity into the local radio stations, where we have this African Day there. And also their involvement further into the discourse of spice route that made made possible by the Indonesian Directorate General of Culture. By that time, the African students were involved in the discussion of the spice route, that giving broader kind of experience and knowledge for the African students and also for Indonesian about the connection that has been going on for several decades. Even it is something that we need to remember all the time. And this year, we are joining all together hand in hand through this conference that will be held late July through the 13th International Conventions of Asia Scholars, where we are also inviting African scholars and also students that currently studying in Indonesia to have this personal one-on-one kind of meeting through this international convention. Means that it is an ongoing and still celebrated in Indonesia, especially in Universitas Airlangga. And we found this very interesting and also become important in the relations with the topic of today's webinar, that it is how Indonesia took part in the upcoming and also ongoing kind of discourse about the Africa itself. Now, statistically, we have worked closely with students, not only students, but also scholars coming from different countries in Africa, such as from Nigeria, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, Madagascar, Rwanda, Gambia, Kenya, Sierra Leone, and other countries, many other countries. Currently, this year, there are 60 African students at Universitas Airlangga, where they pursue different levels of degree from master's to doctorate programs. Not to mention also about the exchange program, the whole semester program through wide range of courses offered by faculties at Universitas Airlangga. And we are only talking about one university, and I see that there are plenty of African students also took part in many different universities across Indonesia. We see this kind of engagement in terms of education, something that very important. Since these students are also not only considering of taking their study in Indonesia, but also they're accessing different scholarship. The one that we know that it is provided by university and also provided internally by Universitas Airlangga. By the government, it is called the Development Countries Partnership Scholarship, or KNB. And through the internal university scheme, it is through Airlangga Development Scholarship, where we are catering different kind of students, not only from Africa, but different countries as well. But we are accepting and receiving financing different students coming from African countries that actually become very much involved. And also they are very brilliant scholars. Yeah, that many of them actually having their master degree, for example, here at Airlangga University, and they are continuing into different kind of levels of postdoc or doctorate degree in different countries around the world. Means that they are competitive as well. And by using the scheme of Indonesian kind of education, they can compete globally. And this is something that we need to take a look further through Christoph Doring Thompson book, yeah, that just released last year. Then what about something that we need to consider on this education? Because the book through Christoph Thompson's point of view shows how Indonesia's foreign policy toward Africa relates to domestic political contestation and consolidation, political legacy and commodity-based industrial policy, and China in Africa networks and ideational influence, among other networks of influence in the Jokowi era. But what about the education? The book also underlines how Indonesia's knowledge production and academic deficiencies negatively impacts its foreign policy capabilities, notably as a potential robust alternative partner for Africa. We should see this kind of potential coming as a distinct kind of approach, yeah, how we try to see and also rethink about the relations of countries in Africa and Indonesia, not only about making a strong foundation in economy, but also how we can see that education is a crucial part in our kind of diplomacy itself. Through this book, I think we can see that it is still work in progress, but we see that the interest for the African country student that coming to Indonesia is also big. They want to see further, not only looking to the West. And I think this is also part of the decolonization process that happened where the African country student are actually looking to get more knowledge and experiences coming from the eastern part of their side. So this is, I think, something that we can work on in terms of the production of knowledge that we can combine together, and also taking crucial activities and also important kind of approach in having these both Indonesia and African countries connection to being more involved in terms of education. We see education as diplomacy, where African studies are still limited in Indonesia. Here we are in African Studies Centers feel that, and it is something that challenging. When we are talking about Africa, people still see Africa as a country, not something that really different in terms of different countries, different cultures, and we are need to give this as something that need to be literate by Indonesian as well. And also as far as what we can see from the African sides, how they see Indonesia. And His Excellency Pak Al-Busra has already taken a serious part in having this book prepared from the perspective of Indonesian young people, and also from the perspective of African young people, into seeing how this relationship works. While education pathways are one of the most efficient forms of diplomacy, African alumni from Indonesian universities are successful in their careers and support their relations with Indonesia and different countries in Africa. We have alumni that working in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for example, becoming director of one university, for example, and many of them are being successful. And they are the great ambassador for us, for Indonesian. The role of social capital through education is essential, and the government and stakeholders need to allocate more budget and attention to scholarships and education development, since the competition in the future will be more complex and full of uncertainties, and we as Indonesians should try this to look this more seriously and give more literacy in terms of African studies, vice versa. Thank you very much. That's all for me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Irfan. Now, we would like to invite our last panelist for this discussion. And after the last panelist, we will proceed to the Q&A session, which hopefully we have 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes after 4. Then at 15 past 4, we will end the whole seminar. So hopefully we will have the next panelists on time, and we will proceed to the Q&A session. Now, I would like to kindly invite the sixth panelist, Mr. Kemal Abdullah, the president of OYES Global Foundation. And for the information, OYES Global Foundation is a youth-led nonprofit and non-government global organization founded on the 19 August 2014 in Thailand, and also reciprocal in Ethiopia in 2019 to support and empower youth by designing programs which focus on youth development and also local communities. Now, I would like to kindly invite Mr. Kemal to share your experience and also your thought on how youth and also local communities contribute to the development of two regions' connectivity. Please.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency Dr. Fadlizon, the chairman of the Committee of Inter-Parliamentary Cooperation, House of People Representative of the Republic of Indonesia, Your Excellency, my brother, Dr. Ambassador Dr. Al-Busra Bansur, all excellencies, my fellow friends, distinguished speakers, thank you so much for inviting and having me here today to speak on the role of African youth in shaping the present and future. So I think the previous speakers have mentioned a lot about the increasing population of Africa. As African, the continent is larger than China, India, the United States, Japan, and most of European combined is becoming the next frontier markets with rapidly growing population, increased urbanization, and what is soon to be the world's largest workforce. Africa has the opportunity to transform the global economic powerhouse. Africa is the second most populous continent with 1.4 billion people, which is equivalent to the 17.8% of the total world population. According to the World Bank Group, by 2075, 1/3 of the world's population and the working age population will be Africa. It is the only region where the workforce will be grow continuously in the coming decades. Among this population number, the youth demographic in Africa is particularly significant, with 60% of population under the age of 25. This makes Africa the continent with the youngest population globally. It is called the youth continent. This youth population presents both opportunities and challenges for the continent's future development and growth. I want to just explain briefly about the opportunities that the African youth will bring to the Africa and the globe. These opportunities include driving the economic growth and prosperity through a large workforce and increased innovation and creativity, and potential for consumer markets. Investing in education and the skill development for the youth population can also lead to more productive and competitive workforce in the future. Harnessing the energy and the potential of African youth can drive technological advancement and entrepreneurship, contributing to overall economic prosperity on the continent. By prioritizing youth empowerment and engagement, Africa can position itself as a global leader in innovation and sustainable development. Moreover, empowered youth can also play in shaping the policies and driving social changes, leading to more inclusive and equitable societies across the continents and beyond. This can ultimately result in bright future for Africa as a whole, with opportunities for growth and development that benefits all citizens, not only in Africa, but across the globe. Despite these opportunities that we Africans have because of large number of population, still the African youth have a lot of challenges, including economic challenges, high unemployment rates, also informal economy, which is also a barrier for our youth. Again, we have access to finance, which is one of the challenging factors that our youth across Africa is facing. We have also educational challenges that we need partnership and collaboration with Indonesia and other world countries. There are also other social and political challenges that are affecting our users across the continents. Technological challenges also are there that affect our youth to use their energies and potentials. For these challenges, I think we need a global collaboration and a partnership with different stakeholders, the governments, civil society organizations, private sectors, and many more, that we can collaborate and overcome the challenges of our youth of today and tomorrow. This collaboration and partnership includes a collaboration and partnership with countries like Republic of Indonesia, which is the fourth most populous country in the world. It has also has a young population with a median age of around 30 years old. The total youth population of Indonesia is estimated to be around 80 millions, presenting a significant opportunity for collaboration and exchange of ideas with African youth. By leveraging the experience and the resource of both regions, innovative solution can be developed to address the challenges faced by young people in Africa and Indonesia. This collaboration can lead to a creation of programs and initiatives that can promote youth empowerment, entrepreneurship, and sustainable development. By fostering culture of innovation and knowledge sharing, African and Indonesian youth can learn from each other, others' unique perspectives and experience. This collaboration has the potential to not only benefit the youth involved, but also contribute to the overall development and the prosperity of the both region. At OS Global Foundation, we have created a sustainable platform, which we call the African Asian Youth Forum, through which the two continents youth can share experiences and knowledge and bring connectivity between the two regions' youth. So through this platform, I think we have already started organizing this forum in different countries. Now, next, we are going to organize in Indonesia in collaboration with the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia in Addis Ababa. Of course, with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, our sister is here. I am very glad that I see you here also. Soon we will meet for our forum. So this forum is already seen significant impact in fostering collaboration and innovation among young leaders, entrepreneurs, with many participants going to launch successful initiatives in their respective countries. Before I conclude my speech, I really want to acknowledge the contribution of Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia and His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Al-Busra Bansur and his all staff for supporting Ethiopia and African youth through various programs, including Youth Exchange, which is first of its kind that I was participated this year, together with 10 youth from Ethiopia, and also other educational activities, economic opportunities, leadership experience sharing, and overall development initiatives that's initiated by His Excellency Ambassador and the Embassy of Indonesia. Of course, we have partners there in Indonesia, including Budulihuur University and Ministry of Foreign Affairs, particularly the African Affairs Division. They are doing a lot of things for Ethiopians and Africans. Ambassador has made a significant effort to strengthen the relationship between our nations by fostering cultural understanding and cooperation. This is what we need for our nation, particularly for the youth. And his dedication to creating a platform for dialogue like this one, collaboration and mutual support has been instrumental in building strong ties and enhancing the friendship between our countries. Through these his initiatives, many young people, including myself, have benefited from enhanced educational and economic prospects, contributing to a bright future for both nations. In conclusion, the use of Africa and Indonesia can shape the present and the future of our regions if they are given opportunities to participate in and engage in socio-economic and political discussions and initiatives. By fostering cross-cultural understanding and cooperation, they can work together to address common challenges and seize their shared opportunities for growth and progress. By leveraging each other's strengths and resources, the use of Africa and Indonesia can drive innovation and positive change in various sectors such as technology, agriculture, and education. This collaboration has potential to not only benefit the youth themselves, but also contribute to the advancement of their respective communities and countries. The last, I would like to call that through our joint efforts and partnership, young people from Africa and Indonesia can create a powerful forces for positive change in their communities and beyond. By uniting their voices and talents, they can inspire meaningful impacts and sustainable development for the future generation. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kemal, for sharing your ideas. And now, as we miss the time, now we will open the Q&A session for three participants. One from our Honorable Member of Parliament here, Ibu Ade Rossi, and second from the students or the other guests coming here in person. Mas, yeah, in the corner, and one in Addis Ababa. We prefer to have youth and also women representation in this discussion. So, yeah, Ibu. In online, we have one participant from Addis Ababa, and in person here in Jakarta, we have two questions. Now, Ibu Ade Rossi, please, the floor is yours.
Excellency, Ambassador Al-Bushra Basnur, Honorable Dr. Fadlizon, Chair of the Interparliamentary Corporation, and Mr. Putu, Honorable Member of Parliament, esteemed panelists, good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace be upon us all. Thank you, moderator, for allowing me this opportunity. My name is Ade Rosia Heronisa. I am a member of the Committee of Interparliamentary Cooperation of the Indonesian House of Representatives. Firstly, I would like to appreciate the Committee for Interparliamentary Cooperation and the Indonesian Embassy in Addis Ababa for organizing this seminar, and thank the panelists for their valuable insight. Today's discussion has highlighted the critical role of Africa in global geopolitics and the untapped potential for Indonesian-Africa cooperation. The African Continental Free Trade Area, which aimed to create the largest free trade area in the world, has boosted intra-African trade by 52% in 2022. It shows significant opportunities for Indonesian businesses and investors. I would like to highlight a specific cooperation potential in the field of digital economy. Africa's rapidly growing digital economy is projected to reach $180 billion by 2025. Moreover, Africa's youthful population, with over 60% under the age of 25, represent a dynamic workforce and a growing consumer market. Indonesia's digital economy is poised to become the largest in Southeast Asia. Our digital economy grew by more than 400% from 2017 to 2021, and it is projected to grow by 62% in 2025. The adoption of new technology in Indonesia has the potential to significantly boost our economy up to $2.8 trillion by 2040. This factor positions Indonesia as a key player in the digital economy and a potential partner for African nations seeking to enhance their digital capabilities. In this regard, I would like to hear from the panelists, how can Indonesia enhance its diplomatic and trade presence in Africa to better support cooperation in the digital economy? How can we, as parliamentarians, promote public-private partnerships and people-to-people contact to build mutual trust and understanding in the field of digital technology? Could the panel share examples of successful partnerships that have fostered stronger ties in the digital economy? Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Honorable Ibu Ade Rossi, for your interesting question and also sharing your idea. Now we will tackle the second question and then followed by the third question from the floor in Addis Ababa, and I will give 1 minute for each panelist to deliver and to respond to the whole questions because our time is up. Please, Mas, please to kindly make it short and concise. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the invitation. Honorable Dr. Fadlizon. Focus to the question, I would like to ask a question to the Dr. Fadlizon as the president of ISAFIS in 1994. Nowadays, Indonesia's condition of the society, especially young people, is quite worrying when we see that awareness of cooperation between both Asia and Africa, Indonesia and Africa, just limited to the diplomatic relations. The most prominent cooperation is education, especially in northern countries such as Egypt, Morocco, with the tourism cooperation. Apart from that, the situation of young people in Indonesia is quite interesting in terms of racism, which is rife on social media. The question is, what kind of understanding and steps do young people need to pay attention to from the government perspective, especially in prospect of a new government in the era of Mr. Prabowo Subianto? Because we do believe for the Indonesia Emas 2045 will bring mindfulness in young people and high value of human resource in the future, in emphasizing awareness and good faith in cooperation between Indonesia and Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mas, sorry, once again, your name?
My name is Ahmadi Paharizmi.
Ahmadi, okay. Thank you, Mas Ahmadi. We have another Ahmadi here from the Secretariat anyway. So we will have the third question from the floor in Addis Ababa. Maybe honorable speakers or panelists there could manage to find if there is a question. We didn't see any. Yeah, I think we are fine with 2 questions, and I would like to directly give the floor to, Bapak. Yeah, Bapak. Yeah, please, Pak Ravindra, the floor is yours.
Sure, good evening. Thank you, moderator. I would just like to ask a few questions. My first question is, as mentioned by Pak Mintarjo, it was mentioned that Indonesia's diplomatic focus has been to create preferential trade agreements. I'm aware as well that Mozambique became the first country to have a preferential trade agreement with Indonesia. This increased the number of trade by 78%. As Pa Fadlizon mentioned, there is only 16 out of 54 countries that has an embassy, standing embassy. How will this affect our ability to secure further preferential trade agreements with the rest of African countries? Secondly, looking at the RPJMN, the medium-term plan of Indonesia, I have yet to identify there is a strategic roadmap for Indonesia's economic diplomacy in Africa. Is there a plan going forward to create an economic roadmap in terms of collaborations? Third, according to IRENA, International on Energy, Africa is able to meet 1/4 of its energy needs from renewables. Indonesia has a lot of non-critical minerals which are crucial for energy transition. So what kind of collaboration can we work on? Especially, we would like to congratulate Ethiopia as well for the completion of the Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, which will provide power to, and on past September 2023. So is there any further collaboration we can do on the renewable energy space? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Bapak Ravindra. Now, from Ibu Enda, we have one privilege for one more question. Yeah, at the corner, please.
Thank you, Bapak Fadlizon and other speakers. My name is Akbar. I'm from ISAFIS as the Director of Research and Development. I think my question would like to focus on one aspect of cooperation with Indonesia and Africa that hasn't been talked about yet, in which it is defense and security cooperation. We can see that Indonesia has a long history of using defense cooperation as a tip of the spear of its diplomacy. We can see this with Cambodia, in which Cambodian special forces are trained by Kopassus until this day. We can see, for example, cadets from Australia are doing exchanges here, and also we have sent cadets there. But we haven't seen this with any African nation. There are several aspects of defense and security cooperation, for example, with South Africa's Denel, in which we buy autocannons and missiles, but it is in very small amount. And the way that we see it, Indonesia has this big potential to be a big player in the dynamics of security and defense in the African region, whether it be through the training of special forces, whether it be to open up more quota for the Command and Staff College, SESCOA, SESCOAT, SESCOAL, SESCOAU, SESCO TNI, but also in other technical aspects, such as, for example, the export of weapons, the export of weapon systems, the export of technical assistance, and many other things that can be done by, especially now we have this defense holding called Defense ID, in which I believe it is one of the big aspects of international cooperation with Indonesia and Africa that hasn't been that explored yet, especially in recent days. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we have all of the 4 questions from security, defense, renewable energy, and also all aspects that is so very. Now I will give for each panelist 1 minute for each panelist. You don't have to respond all of the questions, but hopefully that you can tackle of the question that maybe is in line with your background and also your preferences and also expertise. Now I would like to give the floor maybe to the first panelist, Dr. Cole. Maybe you can give 1 minute respond to the question. You don't have to answer all, but at least which question that you think suits your background and also expertise, please. We have the question about the collaboration on renewable energy, about how to enhance diplomatic relations in terms of digital economy, and also how public-private partnership could contribute to this advancement of the cooperation, and also the prospects or the potential of defense and security with Africa continents. And also, last but not least, about how to enhance the awareness of cooperation in terms of education, and also how to tackle the sort of misunderstanding or maybe bias if we see about Africa continent in the social media or in the global world in general. Please, Mr. Cole.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me try to answer the questions, but I'm not sure whether 1 minute will be enough because I have answers to all the questions, but I just try my best to answer as much as I can. First of all, I want to look at the issues about diplomatic relations, because Indonesia has diplomatic relations with at least 17 African countries, and this fosters the spirit of South-South cooperation, which is very, very important for us right now. The government of Indonesia has actually working with strengthening these ties through various diplomatic missions and embassies and consulates have been set up in many African countries, and a few of them, of course, here, Ethiopia, we have South Africa, we have Nigeria and Kenya. These have facilitated political dialogue, economic cooperation, and cultural exchange. So when I talk about economic cooperation, because the question came many, many times over from the various speakers, I think that we have been expanding in Africa our economic ties with Indonesia quite steadily, and there's been a lot of trade between the 2 regions, and that includes a variety of goods and services. And for example, Indonesia exports palm oil, textiles, and manufactured goods to Africa, while African raw materials and agricultural products go to Indonesia. And this trade volume, although still modest compared to other regions, has been growing. And I think we need to further, this economic cooperation between Indonesia and Africa, and not only for Ethiopia but for many other countries. The relationship between Indonesia and Ethiopia is very, very good when it comes to trade. There has been significant increase in trade in recent years, with Ethiopia importing Indonesian textiles and so on and so forth. But then there is a question about strategic partnership also came, and what is the role of parliamentarians in all of this? And I think that the strategic partnership between Indonesia and Africa have been deepening also, and both regions have recognized the potential for mutual benefit in economic security as well as sustainable development. There have been collaborative efforts in international forums, such as between the United Nations and the non-aligned movements. And these have been instrumental actually in advancing shared goals and addressing global challenges. For example, Indonesia and South Africa have developed a strategic partnership that includes defense, technology, and trade cooperation. This partnership has led to joint ventures and collaborative projects that benefit both countries. And we want to see this expand more in some of the bigger African countries, like Indonesia can have the same kind of partnership with Nigeria, can have the same kind of partnership with Ethiopia, for instance, in the areas of defense, not only in trade, but also in other security, defense, and also economic cooperation, other forms of economic cooperation. I think that is very important. And certainly, you as parliamentarians in Indonesia have a vital role to play on this. Because I think when it comes to discussion or making decisions, you are the decision makers in your country. And I think you can certainly influence the way Indonesia and Africa can expand this kind of cooperation in area of security, defense, economic cooperation, and also all kinds of trade. Also to increase the volume of trade. As somebody said, China, is doing much more. Even Turkey is doing much more than what Indonesia is doing in Africa today. So probably Indonesia being a very big country with so much influence in Asia, I think there's much scope for increasing trade, and also other areas, also such as security, defense, and other forms of economic cooperation. Also, I think I've overstepped my. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Mr. Lawale, for sharing your ideas. Now, I would like to invite Ibu Dewi for maybe if you have some thought to respond to the questions from the floor. Please, Ibu Dewi, for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mbak Masito. Maybe I would like to answer the questions related to the PTA, because PTA is quite new in our relations with Africa, because we are having the strategy to aim for the PTA with bilaterally with those African countries that is not belong to the sub-regional organization. So in Africa, there are some sub-regional organization that has their own specific rules on tariffs and everything. We can say, for example, for the East African, we have this East African community, and we have this for the West Africa, we have ECOWAS, and then for the South Africa, we have SADC. They have their own specific rules on tariffs and those related to the trade regimes. So we try to also engage with those sub-regional organizations. However, until today, we are still finding the ways on how to closely engage them, because if we want to be engaged with East African community, for example, making the PTA, they need to have the approval from all the members of the EAC. So we have these two strategies. We have the bilateral as well as working on our sub-regional engagement as well. We have now underway with Mauritius, and we also have already agreed to make PTA bilaterally with Tanzania and Kenya and Rwanda. So this bilateral engagement also put forward in parallel with the engagement with this sub-regional organization. And maybe I would like to add about this defense and security cooperation. Yes, we are actively engaged with Africa through our peacekeeping missions. And we also have several letter of intention on defense cooperation. And we just recently signed a defense cooperation agreement with South Africa last year. So basically our political and security engagement we have already also had with several African countries. Maybe that's all. That's my addition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Dewi. And now I would like to kindly invite Bapak Mintarjo Halim. If you had any response to the questions of the floor, please.
Thank you. I just want to talk about the PTA also, but it's different with Dia, because he is talking about the government trying to contact between the government for the PTA or the FTA. Because actually we talk about FTA. But FTA maybe is difficult in Africa, because FTA you will talk about the whole item to be deduct the tariff. But PTA is depend on what you want to export. They want to import and what we want to import. We can have 10 items, and they ask maybe for 12 items. It's okay as long as both sides is okay, is agree, then we will sign. But of course, it can be added later on if there is anything that's happened. But basically, at the moment, we have Africa. They have a high on tariff and barrier. So that is basic item. It's not from now. It's already from long time ago. So, for example, we have tires. We try to sell to them, but we cannot get through. We sell to South Africa. They have to pay 40% tariff on that. And they have Africa. They have they can sell everything with their own bilateral agreement, both by FTA or bilateral agreement with them, with America also. So that's why we want to talk about the PTA. PTA is a bilateral. It's between us and one country in South Africa. In Africa, for example, you talk with South Africa, then we talk with South Africa. We don't talk about the others. But they want to talk with the others because they want to talk with the others. If we understand, I understand if we want to talk with the others, it's become the FTA. But it's all is government will take a decision whether they want to talk the FTA or PTA. Because with the high tariff, it's difficult. Because like this, we have signed a lot of FTA with many other countries, like China, ASEAN, Japan, Korea, as I mentioned before, is Australia, many other countries. If they sell the same price, we buy. Of course, we buy from the FTA country is cheaper because we don't need to pay the duty or we pay a less duty. But if we buy from Africa, we have to pay the normal price. Maybe we have to pay 10% or 20%, whatever the cost is. The same thing when they buy from Indonesia, when they arrive in Africa, they have to pay also the duty. We talk about the duty, not the tax, and not the tax is the duty. They have to pay the duty. So what we want is to reduce, so we can have a more comparison to buy whether it's from Africa countries or from other countries. That is the basic item. But so far, it's still very slow with Africa. We hope that we can do more faster step for negotiation. That's what we hope. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak Halim. Now we have, we are unfortunate that Pak Taufan is not in the Zoom already. Yeah? So we will have still 3 panelists, Mr. Bekele, Mr. Irfan, and Mr. Kemal. So any of you would like to respond to the question? Maybe first to Dr. Bekele, 1 minute respond, please.
Thank you very much. Mainly, one thing that I want to focus is awareness related to the required between the Canadian and Africa, because still there are some parts of the world that see Africa or even Ethiopia where we were somewhere in the past, specifically Ethiopia. There was a drought in 1974. Still, there are some parts of the world that relate Ethiopia with that old bad history. But now, where we are growing in a very promising approach in economic and education, social, in every aspect. So, awareness creation, like Ambassador of Indonesia in Addis Ababa did, taking investors from Ethiopia to Indonesia, connecting people to people, that will bring a real change. That will enhance our connectivity, our relationship, specifically in education. It is really a hard achievement that I saw with 6 universities within 1 day. Such achievements, success, need to continue with the rest of other African countries. So we are really a true partner because of the values we have. In all situations, there are many things that we learn from Indonesia, especially we need to rebuild our social values. We need to rebuild our cultural issues. For that, really, Indonesia is our real strategic partner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to say a short brief about how Indonesia and Africa can be trying to economy. I think one way of doing this is improving the education, like enhancing the digital literacy and STEM skills, expanding access, that is increasing internet availability and affordability, particularly for the Africans and the Ethiopians. So I'm reading from the phone and someone is calling me. And supporting innovation, that's establishing an incubator and providing funding for startups. This is one of the challenges that we Africans are facing, and strengthening the regulations, implementing digital friendly policies, and the data protection will be one of the way of boosting this. Encouraging collaboration. As I say, we need to promote networking and public-private partnership, especially this in relation to digital economy. Digitalizing the services, develop e-government and open data initiatives. And of course, we need to have more initiatives like Africa-Asia Youth Forum and the exchange programs that we have initiated together with this embassy. And we recently had Global Citizen Summits, through which the youth can collaborate, connect, and share this digital information so that they can come together and create their platform. So by increasing collaboration, partnership, and connectivity, I think we can boost this use digital collaboration. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kemal. And last but not least, Mr. Irfan from Erlangga. Do you have any response to the question, Pak Irfan, please?
Yes,
if you
just
had
a short
any.
one, thanks. Yes, the one that we have discussed is about how we can promote more better on these Indonesia and African countries' relationships. And this is something that already going on. But to make this not only as an exclusive or executive issue and more put it into a grounded kind of issue, so every society can feel this and also learn from this. I think this is very important. And by looking at this as an opportunity to renew and also put this into the curricula that taught into different level of schools in Indonesia, I think this is also important to give knowledge more about Africa, for example, to Indonesian students, and giving more information as well about the culture, the language, the difference and variations of culture in Africa. This is something that we can do to make it more earth into these kind of discourses. So I think this is something that we can work on. And by the establishment and the where the African students are here in Indonesia, I think they can help as well. And in the, for example, the community empowerment program that we can ask them to come to go to different villages around Indonesia for the universities. I think this is also kind of important in introducing them and also introducing Indonesian people on these kind of African friends that they have and has very kind of long history with us. I think that's for me. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Pak, for your final response. Now we've come to the end of the discussion session, but since we still have some remaining questions addressed to our Chair of the Committee for Interparliamentary Cooperation, before I give the floor to Pak Fadli and maybe will be followed by the MC to close this session, I would like to maybe to sum up some of the final comments and also discussions on this seminar today, that today all of the countries, not only in Asia but also in Africa, shared the same challenges with regard to inequality, not just in terms of economic but also social and also political, in terms of gender equality and also all aspects of our social life. And in this regard, the Asian Africa Conference brought together the social and political forces of the Global South to add the voice of global affairs by mobilizing our moral and political strengths, as what President Sukarno puts it as the moral violence of nations on the side of peace and independence in the world full of uncertainty. And we hope that through this seminar today, we hope it will enlighten us on shaping our understanding, in opening up our understanding about the current challenges and also opportunities with regard to Indonesia and African relations, and how hopefully we could contribute based on our expertise and also based on our backgrounds today. Now, to close the discussion, maybe just some summary that it is our responsibility to ensure that economic growth and development benefit all countries, not just few. And the existing inequality as a result of global disparity should be tackled together, not just by the government, but also by parliaments, civil society, academicians, media, and all elements of the society. And in this regard, Parliament are committed to provide the platform for dialogue and also cooperation, especially by Indonesian House of Representatives, who will host the second Indonesia-Africa Forum in September 1st until 3rd to 2024. So once again, I would like to thank you, all of the panelists, and on behalf of the House of Representatives and the Secretariat, we would like to apologize if there were any inconvenience. And once again, merci de partager vos idées et vous remercie pour votre attention et participation en this dialogue. Thank you very much. Pak Fadli, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ibu Masito. I will not answer the question directly since it will trigger another session of discussion. So maybe we can discuss this in another time, but I would like to use this opportunity on behalf of the House of Representatives of Indonesia, especially from the Committee for Interparliamentary Cooperation. I would like to thank all the panelists and participants from here in Jakarta, joining offline, and also from Addis Ababa, and some participants also online from different parts of the world for the very insightful presentation and information. And also we have gathered various data and information from various stakeholders of different background, and this will enable us to explore deeper cooperation and collaboration between Indonesia and the African nations, including in the field of education, economy, renewable energy, youth empowerment, exchange of culture, and people-to-people contact, and among others, and also can be conducted bilaterally and regionally. It is a very well-known Indonesian proverb, tak kenal maka tak sayang. Maybe it can be translated to English maybe in a strange way. Don't know, thus don't like. It is hoped that this seminar will strengthen the discussion and result of the Indonesia-African Parliamentary Forum, which will be held in the first week of September this year. And I also hope that our collaboration and cooperation between us will continue to ensure a successful event. So once again, thank you, Pak Duta Besar Al-Busra Basnur from Addis Ababa, and also some colleagues and friends there, and I hope this will continue again in the near future for our future discussion. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yes. Very good.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of our event today. On behalf of the organizing team, please accept our appreciation to all participants, panelists, and organizer for their invaluable contribution to this meeting. Thank you for your active participation. May you have a peaceful and fulfilling day ahead. Thank you.
So, what we will do, it is very useful.